sir. Just regarding the FNPF. The FNPF. Oh, the FNPF. If general account or eligibility for education is gone because of this COVID we've been receiving, is it possible the government can help us to for education or maybe lesser land to farm?
So if you want to buy land to build a house, FNPF will allow you to do it in use your general account, your preserved account. They will do that. No, you preserve. You preserve your general. No, no. What I'm saying, if you want to buy a house,
And generally was about, we talked about TVET and how it's available through FNU and how you can access that. And government actually pays for the TVET courses. And also if people want to, for example, access the FNPF account to, build a house, they can access the preserved account for house building or house construction. But for other things, you have to access your general account. Please.
Honorable Kayum, I come from Suva. I am a GP.
Sorry,
My
Your
name is Dr. Dean. I am from Suva. I've come up with some thoughts. Has the government thought of introducing a grog sales tax? Grog, I believe, is a big business in Fiji. It outlives sugar industry. And I understand government should introduce a grog sale tax, especially retail and wholesale, if government could look into it. The other is, what's the issue regarding marijuana? What is the issue regarding marijuana? Why ain't government kind of moving towards legalizing marijuana when in the Western world it is now treated as a recreational drug? It is no longer treated as a hard drug. I understand the cost of police surveillance, cost of police raid, prosecution, court procedures, prison containment is an enormous cost to the country. And I understand we should move towards legalizing it for the benefit of the country. The other argument I want to present is regarding empowerment of women. We should look into the prospects of legalizing prostitution and abortion. This is, it may not augur well with a lot of people here, but I understand we should look seriously into it. It is an act of empowering women to earn their living. I would, as a doctor, I would expect you to raise tax on sweets, soft drinks, tobacco and suki. Another thing that I would want government to look at is the cost of infrastructure that the government is providing. What I see as a resident of Suva, the enormous input of the government in constructing roads. Government constructs the road, after big rainfall the road is washed away. And I believe the chip and seal formula of sealing roads is not right. Our weather does not permit it. I would prefer a government look at asphalting the roads with probably a rubberized mixture. The other thing that I would want to see is the government put emphasis on agriculture like dairy. We produce, I understand, only 10% of the dairy products that we consume. The other thing I would say that the government should start preparing for the ultimate death of the sugar industry. Government is pummeling millions of money over the last decade or so without any tangible returns. FSC is technically insolvent. So I mean, these are hard facts, but I see that these things are something that the government needs to look into.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we'll take your submissions into consideration. We receive a lot of submissions. Things like legalizing marijuana, as you know that we had already announced. There are two types of marijuana, as you would know as a doctor. There are certain ones that, I think it's called TCTs or TCNTs. That's chlorohydrofluoride or whatever it's called. That gives you the level of high. So there are certain types of marijuana plants that if you smoke it, it does not give you a high. So that's what you call industrial hemp. So we already announced in the budget last year that we're looking at having a licensing regime for industrial hemp, not the one that you get high on, but the industrial hemp. So from industrial hemp, you make clothes, you make rope, all sorts of things are made overseas. It's a huge money-making enterprise. So we are currently, of course, trying to look at all the laws. We have to make sure, because we're a developing country, we also don't want to be blacklisted. The reality is that if you, for example, the countries that have legalized what you're saying, marijuana, they're basically the developed world. Right? Canada, USA.
Latin America as well.
Some of them, yes. But predominantly that part of the world. And also, for the industrial hemp, we have to make sure that we have a licensing regime. Because you don't want to get blackballed by the financial institutions. They'll say you got proceeds of crime. So we have to make sure that all those steps are taken. We've already spoken to the UN Office on Drugs and Crime. They're helping us with it, looking at how we can develop the law to get that particular regime in place. At the Attorney General's conference last year, we had people from Europe and various other parts of the world that talked about what they have done, what they've done in Australia and various other places. And that's something that we are looking at, definitely. The other issue that you talked about, obviously about the sales tax on the sweetened drinks, etc. We did have a particular level of levy. Some people don't like that, but as you would know as a doctor, we have very high levels of NCDs in Fiji. So that's one. The other one about the first one was about, sorry, I've forgotten the first one.
About legalizing prostitution.
Legalizing prostitution. That's a very emotive issue. And obviously those kind of laws, you need a lot of public consultation. There was some consultations done on that a number of years ago through the Law Reform Commission. And at that time, people felt very strongly that prostitution should not be legalized. In the same way, a lot of people feel very strongly in Fiji not to have homosexual marriage, same-sex marriage, for example. So, you need to get public consent on these things. Are very sort of matters pertaining to morality and social issues. So you need widespread public consultation. Government cannot simply just introduce that. The other one that you raised was the marijuana, prostitution, abortion. Under the current laws, there are certain ways that it is allowed under different circumstances, as you know, under the law. So that's there. I don't think necessarily it's a budgetary issue directly.
It is an economic issue for women.
Yes, but there are certain instances where they can. For example, if you check the law, if you check the crimes, there is a way that it can be done under certain circumstances. And there's one other one that you said, marijuana.
Basically, legalized prostitution.
Or the roads. You talked about the bitumen and all of that.
Especially the chip and seal formula.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of argument with that. In fact, if you see in the budget was delivered last year, we're looking at, for example, the tire recycling. And FRA currently is doing some studies that if you actually shred tire and you mix it with bitumen, you actually get good quality roads. One of the reasons why the biggest enemy, as you know, of roads is water. Nothing can go through rubber. And the other material that nothing goes through, water does not go through, is glass. So a lot of countries are now beginning to experiment. They mix bitumen, asphalt with shredded glass and shredded rubber. And that gives you a good, good solid road structure. You have to get this, the system right. But please, we'll take your submissions. Thank you for that contribution.
Thanks.
Thank you. Gentleman over here, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kim, for your lovely presentation. My question is based around the health sector. So you have alluded in your presentation that I think there is a general arrangement with the general private practitioners on where the public can go and access their service to a certain selected GPs. So why can't the government make similar arrangement with other allied workers like the dental practitioners to have their services? Because as you're aware that the government dental clinics, they get quite overwhelmed with patients. So that's my first question. And my second question is, I think 1 year ago there was a huge increase in salary for doctors. But there has not been much focus on allied health workers, pharmacists, physiotherapists, dental practitioners, radiologists. So what is the government doing in terms of the salary of these allied health workers?
Yeah, two very good ideas. In fact, we were just talking about it the other day about dental services, and there was a submission made to us similarly in Nasori, where somebody made a submission as to, we've extended this to the GPs, doctors, why can't we do it with the dentists? This is certainly something that we are looking at. The other one regarding the salary increase for those different, doctors got a huge pay rise, as you know, as you correctly say. And we are looking at sectors. Normally what happens, the respective ministry makes submissions. So they'll, for example, see there's a shortage, or they'll see that, maybe the salaries are out of whack with the private sector, and they make submissions, and we go through a particular process. There's a job evaluation exercise team that does do that. So there will be reviews done subsequently. Okay, thank you. Sorry. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, sir, for a very informative session. My question is in terms of IT sector, actually. I come from ICT sector. We have seen the government has gone through a lot of digital transformation, right? If you were talking about BPO, another one was M-Pesa, how we dispersed the 360 and stuff. What sort of incentive or grant can we, the businesses actually, that support digital transformation? What sort of incentive and grant can the government provide them actually? Actually, what happened during pandemic, we have learned that we can work remotely, right? That will reduce our fuel cost. We don't have to go to work. We can work remotely. Our students, our workers, actually, they can work remotely. They can school remotely. They can do online stuff. So moving to digital transformation, we haven't seen actually government doing much support to the businesses. So we love to see, actually personally, I would love to see some improvement in that area. Thank you.
So your one question is the incentives being provided. So when you say those who support the ICT sector, what do you mean support? What kind of support are you talking about?
What I mean is, we are talking about digital transformation, right? For example, pre-COVID, right? Employers, basically, they were not very comfortable with their employees who are working remotely. They were not very comfortable. But during COVID, it was forced for us to do it. Like my company, the company I work for, we have already moved to cloud about 3-4 years ago, right? So that made our work much easier. So we had about 500 employees, they worked remotely, and our business was perfectly workable, right? So we want to see more companies moving towards digital transformation.
There are various tax incentives. I mean, in the budget there was announced 200% tax reduction. So if, for example, a company digitally transforms the company. So a lot of companies, for example, sell a lot of products. And if they now want to sell everything online, it costs money to put all those things online by the software. So if they spend, for example, $100,000, they get a 200% tax deduction. That was announced in the last year's budget. Because we knew that a lot of companies wanted to do that. I mean, that's what we want. You know, as you rightly pointed out. You know, there's a lot of people, for example, who send money from overseas for their families. So, if, you know, maybe if this lady says to her cousin overseas and says, look, you know, I want to do an extension, or the cyclone has blown away the roof of my house. Please send me $2,000 because I want to buy some tin roof and 4x2 and some concrete. The cousin may be willing to send the $2,000 for that, you know, for the material, but does not want to send the cash because she might use it for something else. But if Vinod Patel or Arch Mani Bhai, Kasabia, whoever else it is, has those products available online, and he is in Australia or New Zealand, or he may be in Lautoka, he can order that online, get it delivered to a house. But at the moment, not everything is available online. So if those companies or any other smaller company wants to put their products online, then we'll be able to, they get a 200% tax deduction, give them 200% tax deduction. That's what we've done. Okay. A question here, please.
Thank you, sir. Firstly, I would like to thank the government of the day, especially Honorable Prime Minister and our Minister of Economic for steering Fiji out of this struggle that was pandemic. And I think Fiji has succeeded and was the first country to open the border. As a Nauvoo, it's not a question, but it is my humble request to the government of the day, as we have seen that Suva and Nassori corridor has been full now, and Nauvoo has been progressing. And my humble request to the government of the day, if they can focus on establishing the tax-free zone within Nauvoo, because most of the people are traveling to Suva for their employment. And if the tax-free zones are being established in Nauvoo area, because it's been really flourishing for past few years, and I think it will assist the citizens of Nauvoo and the whole, I think Fiji will progress.
They're already investing, there's no need to a tax-free zone. We normally put tax-free zones in areas where it's economically depressed. Nauvoo is most certainly not economically depressed. So, I mean, I'm telling you the rationale. So, for example, we have a tax-free zone from Matawalu village in Drasa, all the way around the west coast of Viti Levu, all the way up to Nassori, just before Nassori. Because over there, there's not many factories or shops, it's economically depressed. A lot of people move out of there. Same thing with Vanua-Levu. There's so many people from Vanua-Levu living in Viti Levu. We like some of them to stay there. In fact, we want to send some people from Viti Levu to Vanua-Levu. There's a lot of land available. So we need to grow those areas also, you know, economically. But I mean, we hear your submission, but just to give you the rationale behind it. Just talking about wages, I just wanted to highlight very quickly about, if I just finish this now, the wages. There's a review of the national minimum wage, as you know. Now, a lot of people don't seem to understand the difference between national minimum wage and minimum wages that was applicable in the 10 wages sector. Before the national minimum wage was introduced in Fiji, there were already in those days what you call the wages councils. So you have, you know, different 10 sectors. So you have like the electrician, the plumber, the forklift driver, the waiter. They all had their own different minimum wage. So like minimum wage for waiter at the moment is $3.45. Minimum wage for electrician or plumber or boiler maker is a lot higher. Forklift driver is a lot higher. Some people's minimum wage is $5.50 an hour at the moment. But a national minimum wage means is the amount of wages you pay to somebody no matter what work they do. You cannot pay anything below that. So for example, somebody comes to cut the grass over here. You can't pay them anything less than $2.68. You know, we have unfortunately people called, say, house girls. you can't pay them less than 268 an hour. So until the Beni Marama government introduces, there's never any national minimum wage in Fiji. So we started it off slightly over $2, then it got reviewed subsequently. The last review that was done was in 2018. And when that review was done, it went up to 268, and we said we'll therefore review it every 2 years. So 2020, review should have been done, but obviously you can't do a review in the middle of a pandemic when 100,000 people have lost their jobs. You have a distorted market, and therefore you cannot do a wage review then. So now that the borders have opened up, then the review is now currently being conducted. It's actually conducted by a professor from Australia who comes independently, assesses the economy, goes around, talks to different people, employers, employees, etc., and then they do a recommendation and give it to us. There are some people who don't want a wage increase. Like the garment industry is saying, if you're going to increase the wages, only increase it by 20 cents an hour. Because if you increase it too much, we may lose our orders. Because those people order it from overseas, if we become a bit expensive, they may go to Bangladesh or Vietnam. That's one side of the argument. Other people are saying, no, it's okay, you can increase it. So different competing interests. And remember, if the minimum wage is 268, and currently somebody's minimum wage is already 550, because maybe a forklift driver, whoever else, maybe 550 minimum wage. If the 268 goes up, say to $3, or goes up to $4, that person does not expect his salary to stay at 550. His will also go up. So it has a multiply effect. In the same way, some people say, look, I run a tire puncher shop. I employ 5 people. I'm 268 an hour. If tomorrow you ask me to pay them $4 or $5, instead of employing 5 people, I may employ only 3 people. Since 2 people may lose jobs. Some people argue that too. So this is why we get an independent person to do the assessment, and then a recommendation is made. It's all about the sort of balancing interests. Of course, on the other hand, we also know price of things are going up too. So people need to meet those costs too. So these are all the different sort of determinants that help finally give one outcome. The lady over here, please, Mike.
Good evening, sir. I'm Geeta Reddy, Director for Organic Earth Fiji. Thank you for a very good insight on Fiji's status at the moment regarding the economy. I would like to thank Mr. Narayan for bringing up the topic because I was going to talk about that. But thank you for saying that Navua has really a very beautiful place and it's growing. Definitely it is growing. One of the things that I'd like to ask you, sir, is there was a talk about Nauru becoming a town a few years back. I've been stuck here since 2019 and I'm permanently now living in Fiji. I like to see Nauru declared as a town. You come to Nauru town on a Saturday, it is a city. Basically, there's no parking. There's lots of cars, lots of people. A lot of people from Suva are moving into Nauru. The land prices are going up. So one of the questions is, when is Nauru going to be declared a town? And the second question is going to be a personal question. I'm facing a lot of problem with water, and I'm pretty sure everybody is. 5 o'clock in the evening, when it's time for me to visit my temple, there's no water in the tap. And in the weekends, like on a Sunday, there's no water. It's very, very difficult. I mean, I've got about 100 bottles of water, but sometimes I haven't done my cooking. The power is out. So just a simple request. I have written to the Minister for Waterways and also to Honorable Usamate, but I'm still waiting for something to happen, sir. Thank you.
Okay. I'll forward on the first one. What is the first one? Oh, town. Oh, yeah. No, look, I mean, when you said it's a city, and you said there's no parking available, that's not a good city when there's no parking available. So what we would like to do, and yes, Nauru is going to be declared a town, But we wanted to make sure, I mean, you're getting street lights now, more street lights. The roads are being done up. The Minister Premila Kumar was here. We're looking at a relocation of the market to get a better market. It'd be nice to build all those amenities and then declare it a town. You know what I mean? That was the thinking. But you can see, I mean, there's no point. When you declare a town, you need to collect rates from people. So if you're going to collect rates from people and there's no proper drainage, no proper lights, the market is not good, people say, why am I paying rate when all these amenities are not done? So the whole idea was to get all of that done properly. Would have been done probably a lot sooner, unfortunately because of COVID, some of the things got slowed down. And then we, of course, will be declaring the town soon. In the same way, you know, Nandi was supposed to be declared a city. It really has got the numbers to be a city. The water issue, look, I can find out. We have people here about water and then we can tell you. Whereabouts do you live in Navua? Towards the sea?
Provincial office.
Okay. Okay. Navua. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where's the water supply from?
Rewanga, I think.
Okay. Well, let me find out what's happening and then we can. Yes, yes. Okay. Okay. Yes. Have the mic.
Just like you said, if we want to be declared a town, we need to have all the amenities, and water problem, it's everyday problem.
Okay. Have we spoken before on the phone about water? Okay. There's a lady who calls me up about Lotoka, about water quite a bit from Navua. Okay. No, thank you. You know, we'll definitely get back to you and look into that, what the issue is. The gentleman over here, please.
There is no water supply properly allocated to the residents of Navua. Early in the morning from 6 o'clock to 10, the water, we will get the water. From 10 until 7 in the afternoon, there is no water supply. And it is very disappointing when we do big buildings here. The system is very poor. So
Okay.
I would advise, request you, sir, to, contact these people and see what precaution can be taken.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you. Sorry, wait, is somebody? Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yes. Just like everyone is thanking the government for the hard work, our amenities, the hospital upgrading, Navua has been upgraded to a very good hospital. Unfortunately, the dental department, we feel, my husband here is a taxi owner.
So
Almost every second day he has to take somebody to the hospital for dental treatment, but there's only 15 patients treated per day. 10 in the morning session and 5 in the afternoon. And unfortunately, when they put the numbers out at 7 a.m., it just flies. Same thing happens at around 12 o'clock. Right from 1 or 2 o'clock until 4 p.m., only 5 patients are treated. Just day before yesterday, he took a 60-year-old lady. She couldn't be treated. And just like you mentioned about the private practitioners, providing some grant for patients to be treated by the government. Are the dentals also provided some assistance?
No, that's precisely the question the gentleman raised.
I mean the private dental practitioners.
No, he's talking about private doctor. That's what
Yes.
I'm saying. So I'm saying that's something that we have been discussing.
Right.
You see, let me also explain to you, it doesn't mean anybody who's a dentist will automatically get it.
Right.
When we call for expressions of interest for private doctors to provide this particular service, the Fiji College of General Practitioners said don't call for expression of interest, we'll give you the price as one organization. We said no. You can't take a monopolistic approach. You can't have one price. Because the rent a doctor pays in Ba is different to the rent a doctor pays in Suva or Nandi or Latoka. So people should have different pricing.
Right.
Then they threaten their members not to put in a bid. Because the College of General Practitioners, every year has to sign off so they can get the medical certificate. So we said you can't do that, and then some doctors broke ranks. So then they put in the expression of interest. So today we have about 15 suppliers of GPs. There was one doctor we know in Nassori, when you walk in, he charges $10. When we call for expression of interest, he said, I'll charge $25 because government is paying. So we have to be mindful of that too. So same thing with the dentist. If we do go ahead with the idea, we'll actually have to advertise. We'll have to see who puts in the bids. Because, you know, there's not an endless supply of money. We appreciate that. But some may want to try and take advantage of it. But we have to spread the money to as many people as possible. The dental issue has been raised with us. And in fact, it was also raised with us in Nassori in the consultations too.
Any chances of improvement in the public hospital?
Absolutely.
Services?
It's like a $66 million question. We have been obviously, you know, have an agenda to improve it. We were in Singapore where one gentleman raised the issue about there not being enough medicine at the hospital. It's not a question of there not being no money being provided for the medicine. Medicine is sitting here in the government pharmacy in Suva. It's the job of the doctors and the nurses there to notify them to say, I'm running low of this particular stock, please restock it. It's their job to do it. So if they don't order it on time, if they're not responsible enough to do it on time, obviously there'll be a shortage. If you look at the budgetary allocation, we allocate lots of amounts of money for biomedical, for medical services, etc. So what we are saying, and that's one of the issues that we have, is the improvement in the quality of the civil service. You know, in the same way, for example, if you go to a public health system, sorry, what is it?
Pranita.
Okay. So, does the doctor say, good morning, Miss Pranita, please come in. What is your problem? Help you. Let me take your blood pressure, Miss Pranita, this is blood pressure. Your sugar is this much. Please take these tablets, this is for the itch, this is for the cough. Please come back in 3 days' time. There's some side effects from this tablet. Thank you very much, have a good day. Right? You get that in McDonald's. When you go to buy a McDonald's, excuse me, madam, how can I help you? That level of service needs to be engendered in the civil service also. And as announced in Parliament a few weeks back when we were there, we did say we're actually going to roll out some guidelines on that. Because people need to be treated with a service orientation. And I think there's been, for decades, that kind of service orientation has not been there. We started, the gentleman also said, for example, that doctors are now paid lots more money than ever used to be before. People's salaries have gone up substantially. $1.1 billion we pay in salary to civil servants. So we expect a particular level of service.
Yes.
And, and that's one of the things we try to do. But the fact that we actually have to tell people to say, sir, madam, or Miss Pranita, or Mr. Prasad, or Mr. Tokavasi, is in itself tells you where we at.
That's right.
Okay.
And another question, sir. The FDB grant scheme, the COVID grant one?
It's a loan.
Yes, loan. It's a very good initiative by the government to help the people, especially giving 2 years the interest free. But
it's not interest free, we pay on your behalf. It's not free.
Yes, that's right. We are customers of FDB and we had quite a number of years of service. But about this grant scheme, there was no interviews and even the applicants were not informed that they were accepted or rejected. When we went to the counter and asked, then they were just given a simple letter, oh, we already did it on the email, but unfortunately it didn't come on the email, just without any reason letters that it was not approved. And there are certain cases where we have come across many potential investors who wanted to do something for their lives, just like you said, out of job, so they wanted to do something on their own. But they were disappointed.
There are a lot of people who are very happy too. So
Yes.
that's one side of the equation.
Yes.
So a lot of people, in fact, FDB has carried the lion's share of it. In fact, over $100 million has been disbursed. Bulk of it has been done by FDB. This should also have been done by ANZ, the Westpacs, Baroda, BSP, BRED, HFC. But FDB has carried the bulk of it. And FDB cannot put all the eggs in one basket. So it has helped a lot of people. And of course, as we go along, obviously a lot more people will be helped. But they did stop applications because they received too many. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll be last because you've already said your say, please. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, people at the back too. Please. Sorry. Oh, you got a mic? Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Hey, you just lied to me. You said you have a mic.
I can speak without mic. Sorry. If you like.
Go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the Minister for Economy who is in Nabua today. For his so busy schedule, he's here for us. Secondly, I would like to thank the Prime Minister who was away for his treatment and he's back for the people of Fiji. I would like to thank the government of the day for the initiatives which this government has given to the people of Fiji. First of all, the 360 $90 grant and the $50 grant which has been paid. Nobody is giving thanks to the minister who is here. Number two, the government of the day is paying the elderly people $100 a month, disabled allowance $90, and the family assistance $50 and the food voucher. The pregnant mothers scheme for $50, pregnant for 9 months. Education, I would like to highlight the education grant has been given for where I am standing today. When I was schooling here, only the floor was been laid. When this government came in and we are here under the roof of this has been given by the day of the government. This is the fact of life. Under your leadership, we are here. And my children will be very happy. All of my children came through this school. I came in through this school. We did not have this kind of service which you are standing right tonight and we can see. I can say under your leadership, with the management of the school, the heads, both the heads of the school, they have managed the money, and today we are standing with you. The government is giving the bus fare grant for the school children, which I am one of the operators, which I carry school children. Textbook is given by the ministry. The TELS Topper Scholarship has been given to complete the tertiary education. And the threshold over for the income which we generate before we, if I am generating more than 16.5, I used to pay tax. But now I can earn 30,000, I don't have to pay tax. Thank you, sir. And from the health, because you have said in your statement there is no private practitioners are here in Nabua. So myself, I went to baby clinic. I was treated free there. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank you for the good work you have done. And you can see that Nabua is coming up. I have been in town from my child days. I was a peanut seller in my days. Today I am operator. You know, thank you, sir. You can see that under your leadership, we can see that the light is coming right from the highway to Navua. You have got the, what you call, people have behind this government, and they have got the assurance that you can see one big shop and save. I have been to New Zealand. The shop and save in Navua is just like pack and save in New Zealand. Fully aircon. What else you need? It's nowhere in Fiji. I bet for it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, if I thank you. So what's you know, if one point that Mr. Hussain raised here is that there are so many people we met in the past number of years since we introduced free education, where so many people said to us, we wish we had it in our time, we could have finished school. But my parents could not afford to pay for the school fees. There are so many people who said, we wish you had toppers and tails in our time, because I was such a good student, but my father or my parents could not afford to send me to university, I never went to university. And as a result of that, today, far more children are in school, far more girls are in school, far more girls or young women are in university. So thank you for your comments. Thank you. Gentleman over here, please.
Good evening, Honorable Minister. My name is Simoni. I'm a retired civil servant, just retired from late last year, around March. I had the wonderful opportunity of working under you. I worked at the Office of the President. While I was in the Office of the President, I was actually being bombarded lots of questions while being from Navua, why the hospital was being built in Namili. The answer that I gave them, it's a strategic move. Government will come up with these plans. And now that I'm back with them, a lot of my friends sitting over here have all got lands around that corridor. While the chairman of the advisory council had said to set up a tax-free zone, maybe there's an opportunity from your presentation where we could get the investment Fiji to start up some manufacturing areas around that corridor. There's a lot that Navua can contribute to, sir. The government has given a lot to Navua, and it's about time we give some back to the government of the day, and we're so happy so far. With the shops that have come over to develop Navua, you've seen that Navua town is already congested now. In a couple of years, if it's not being addressed by waterways, half of the market will be in the waters. In that way, I ask if the government could consider to maybe look at doing some rock lining on both sides of the river. I actually come from the opposite end of the river. All my Indo families are sitting down over here. Hopefully, that's my humble request to the government of the day, if that could be considered to sell. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Naga, thanks. You know, this lady over here, this gentleman here, or ladies first? Ladies first. Please, go ahead.
Abula IG, I'm Elaine from Pacific Harbour. I actually have a question in regards to people who have invested and they have taken loan from the bank. We know that the pandemic has actually, the graph of it has actually gone down, yet the wrath of it is still felt by the people, the wrath of it. However, I want to know certain strategies that is part of this the budget that is going to help young people like us who have invested in properties here. And we have a lot of, like my husband, he actually lost his job, so our income was reduced by 50%. Now he has started work, yet with the pandemic, even though he works as a credit controller, he's not getting the pay that he deserves because of the pandemic, so it's reduced. Yet the bank is asking us to pay the amount that we actually had to pay when our pay was up there. So I want to know whether there is any strategy in place for the banks to be a bit lenient with us, because they get quite firm and it gets difficult to get things into their mind.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, when the pandemic came around, we met with the Association of Banks, and a lot of them actually deferred payment or gave holidays to people. And in fact, we also had a law that was put in place subsequently where they could not do mortgagee sales, for example, for homes. And there was a particular period of time until which you could also then access your FNPF account to be able to meet those payments. So all of that was put in place. Now, of course, if there are individual, relationships with the banks, that needs to be sorted out with the banks themselves. We've had people, of course, sometimes people have sent us their problems. What I normally do is I send it to the governor. He's the regulator of the banks, and then he talks to the banks on that basis. So we do get that, and that's how we actually deal with it. Some banks are, of course, a lot more accommodating than others. Some banks say, okay, yes, they will recognize the fact that you may not have the same level of income as you used to, combined income, and so they make those adjustments. So it depends on individual banks, but if you still have problems, you can email that to us, and we forward to the RBF, and they can then deal with it on that basis. Maybe you need to change banks. I'm serious. In fact, in this period, a lot of people have changed banks. Because some banks have been far more understanding, and people actually have changed banks. As you know, before, you had to pay a penalty if you changed banks, your loan. But now you no longer have to pay penalties. So you should really consider that. Well, look, I mean, constitutionally we can't force them also to defer a loan. We can't do that. But I really suggest you talk to them, and you may need to look at changing a bank if it's not becoming accommodating. You can always email us about that. Okay. Please.
Actually, I'm one of the community around here. We from below Visari and Thalia Nabu, we are resettled at Kasnaura, Wainandoi. Since from 2017, we have been assured that when we're going to shift on to Kasnaura, we're going to be given the water and electricity. While moving on, then we see there were difficulties of water. So we didn't stood idle, stood up, formed, this is how my communities around, when relocation of money collected, and we move to the village of Waikasnaura, negotiate with the village men, when we pull down pipeline from their dam towards us. And thanks to the government of the day for moving on, and a great thankful go to Honorable Vijaynath, move on and assist us with 10,000 liters of tanks. And water has been solved. So the problem is we have at the moment is electricity. And rumors are moving around in the areas, this and that. I say, no, until and then, that's why we are here, to hear from you, Honorable Sir, the electricity of our area, Waikasnaura. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll make a note of that. Please just give the area name to the people at the back, so let them know about electricity. The lady over here, please. In the green and yellow.
Thank you. Yes, I think the world knows that I'm a diehard supporter of the Fiji First Party, so it's nothing new coming from me. It's like an old record. So first and foremost, I would like to congratulate my government for taking leading roles in many development factors in the world today. And I don't want to take too much of the time because we've been warned, like talk about the budget only. Having said that, I also want to, I'm working on the ground with people, and those who know me will tell you that my topic is always politics. I'm talking about politics, being a non-politician myself. However, I'm tired and sick and tired of listening to people always saying, what has this government done? What has this government done? I wish all of them could have been here today, from Suva to wherever I stay here in Nabua now. But it will be on the social media, and I will repost so that people can hear. I just want to say to all my ladies and gentlemen here, who have come across me, talking to them about politics a lot of times, that just open your eyes, your ears, read a lot, look around, and you'll know what the government has done. Okay? Even during these 2 pandemics, it's almost cost us 2 years. But did our teachers not get paid? Did the hospitals close their doors to us? Did our social welfare benefits stop? I have invited my auntie here. I call her auntie, a woman I met in Nabua. And this is the woman who was helped by this government, and that's why she's here today. She's past 80 years old. She's here today. And why? Why is she here? I will share, because she was said she can't talk, so she wanted me to say. This government helped her with all the material you need to build a house, a little house, comfortable. I've been there. A 1-bedroom house with a kitchenette, toilet, bathroom, and she stays there. Provided the material plus the manpower, and today she's very thankful to this government. That's why she's here. So the government hasn't stopped doing all the things the government was doing for us. Hey, think about it. I hear a lot of people even telling me, think about the change. Yes, I did make a change back then, 2006. And after that, when the Fiji First was formed, I made a change from the opposition that I was with to Fiji First. And here I am today. At 62 years old, I'm proud to call this my government. So I would like to lobby you gang who are here and those who are listening to us on Facebook this evening, that think twice before you make that rapid change. Think twice. Do you want all these goodies to continue, or do you want someone to come and start and start sacking all those people who have been doing the job? Of course, I do agree with a lot of complaints. I've heard your other budget consultations in other places, Honorable AG, and I do agree with some people that when we go to certain places in government departments, there's this very, disgruntled face, not happy to serve us, and these sort of things do happen. Of course, they're beyond your control. They're beyond our Honorable Prime Minister's control. So people think many times before you place that tick.
Thank you. Okay, before we get some more questions, and we need to probably finish off soon, the 2 things that probably want to discuss that a lot of people do ask about and discussing, there's a lot of misinformation about that. One is the price of sugar. So a lot of people talk about sugar, etc. Sorry, maybe can you do that later, please? So price of sugar. So, as you know, sugar, like any other agricultural product, is actually a produce. So, a bundle of dalo a few years ago, 5 years ago, did not cost the same price. Long beans was 50 cents, now it's $2, $2.50. Same thing with sugar. Sugar has not had a price rise for the past 5 years. You don't expect the sugarcane farmer to be receiving the same price. Of course, government pays $85 a ton to the assured price of $85 a ton. The world market price for sugar is $62, $63 a ton. The difference of $50 million government pays. When sugarcane farmer, or when the sugar price goes up locally, as in the Master Award, 70% of the price increase goes to the sugarcane farmer and 30% goes to the miller. So in this particular case, with this rise, you're looking at about $17 million that the farmer will get. But it's still not enough to meet the $85 price, which government continues to subsidize. Government, of course, now will have to subsidize the fertilizer, as I mentioned to you earlier on. The one that's jumped from $45.65 to $80 to $90 a bag. But as we mentioned, that as we are speaking, somebody's toe is getting cut off, somebody's foot is getting cut off because of diabetes. And we have to be mindful of diabetes too. We do take a lot of sugar. The second issue that I also wanted to mention is there's a lot of misinformation about this, and it has actually, the reason we do mention this, it has an economic impact on the country, and that is Bill 17. Everybody talks about Bill 17. There is no Bill 17. Bill is a proposed law. When it becomes a law, it's called an act. So the law is Act 22 of 21. And what does it all mean? So before that law came into effect, if this lady here, for example, wants to lease some land, and this is the landowning unit, in order for her to be able to lease the land, the landowner or the Matangali or the Itokotoka or the Yavusa has to agree to 5 things. So she says, I've seen 10 acres of land, I want to lease it for agriculture purposes. Firstly, 60% of the members of the landowning unit have to agree to lease. 60% must, at least. Then they must agree lease to her for agricultural purposes. They must then agree for how long they will lease the land to her. 30 years, 50 years, 75 years, 99 years. They have to agree to that. Fourthly, they have to agree as to how much premium she's going to pay. Not goodwill, goodwill is illegal, premium. So TLTB will come along, they'll value the land, and they'll say to buy the lease, say for example, you must pay $20,000 up front. They have to agree to that. The fifth thing they have to agree is how much lease she'll pay on a yearly basis. You remember, you have to pay a lease every year. You pay $20,000 plus you have to pay a lease every year. And that lease gets reviewed every 5 years. So obviously, say TLTB may say you have to pay $2,000 a year lease. All those 5 things, the consents that the landowners had to give, was before the law. After the law, still the same thing, nothing's changed. For her to lease the land, all these 5 things the landowners must agree to. Once they've agreed to that, then TLTB here will issue the lease. Not an agreement to lease, but a proper lease. Land gets surveyed, gets a proper lease. Now, before the law, you've gone through the 5 things, she gets the lease, so she's somewhere in Navua, say on the way to the hospital. The land she's leased has got no water. Now she wants to connect it to the Water Authority Fiji line. Before she can connect water, she has to get the consent of TLTB, not the landowner. Landowner's gone, landowner's happy, got the money, and they've agreed to the terms of lease. She has to go to TLTB for consent of water. If she wants to connect it to electricity, she has to get the consent of TLTB. If she goes to BSP and says, I want to borrow some money, I want to put a farmhouse, I want to buy a tractor, so BSP says, no problem, we'll lend you the money, you've got a 99-year lease, we'll take a mortgage of the lease. Before she does that, she has to get TLTB's consent. That is before the law. After the law, the requirement for the consent has gone. Because it was an administrative matter. The lease deal is already done here. Landowners are happy, they've got what they want. This is just utilities. The same thing existed for director for lands. If you lease government land, if you want to collect water, electricity, or mortgage, you have to get the director for lands consent. That's also been taken away. Because it now makes it easier Once you get a lease, you start investing. You go get a loan. Because if she wanted to change banks from BSP to FDB, she again has to get consent. Now TLTB may take 1 year, they may take 3 days, or they may take 6 months. But it's unnecessary hassle for her, because she's already got the lease. So the landowner's rights has not been affected under this particular law at all. A lot of misinformation about that. But if tomorrow she's leased the land, she wants to sell the land, she has to get the landowner's consent. That's still there. If tomorrow she wants to subdivide the land, she has to get the landowner's consent. That's still there. If tomorrow she wants to put a shop and maybe start selling stuff from there, she has to get the landowner's consent. That's still there. If tomorrow she wants to convert the agricultural lease to say commercial lot or tourism lot, she has to get the landowner's consent. That's still there. So all the consensual rights pertaining to the landowners is all still there. The only thing that's changed is the administration. Now what that's done is that if this landowner's land now and people want to lease it more, it'll increase the value of the Itoke land. So a lot more people will want to come and lease it. A lot more people will feel comfortable to come and lease the land. You know, a lot of people say, oh, let's go and get a freehold land. No hassle. This way, people will actually want to lease Itoke land. So the value will go up, and so the landowners will get more money. So that's the rationale behind it. Nothing secretive. Nobody's rights are being taken away. It's actually increasing the value of the land. So economically, things will develop a lot more. Unfortunately, I think the last year the budget that was pretty good. They could not find any criticism, so they picked on Bill 17. And that's what happened. So that's the two simple things I wanted to say. A lot of misinformation about that. And the other point that has been raised here is that the point that the lady is also making is that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So please, we urge you, a lot of places we've gone to in the budget consultations, a lot of people, for example, don't know that all these policies have been rolled out. You should go to the government Facebook page or the government web page, you'll get all the facts. For example, if you go there, you'll see all the GPs. Who are the GPs in which town whose services are being made available? So you can get the information too. There are two people here. This lady here in the brown t-shirt. So you wanted to, yes? The mic over here, please, and the gentleman here in the blue. Lady here first, please.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the government of the day for coming here today, and we have brought up explanation on the budget and how it works and how it is explained was very well. Here we've been hearing and watching a lot about the education sector, what the government has done, and we are really privileged that we have children going to school for free. The bus fare is free, but there is a certain allocation which is done regarding to the rezoning. I'm basically from Wainandoi, and our children, we had a preschool, a kindergarten in Wainandoi, which has been temporarily closed, and due to that, our children will suffer. There is about 17 to 20 children every year attending kindergarten. And while they won't have a space in Napua, in Vashishmuni, there is only one nearby kindergarten, that is Roda Maisala. So we would like to have a submission done. We are working on to it, and hopefully we will send it to the consultation, that we want to see rural development on the kindergarten level. While opening the doors for the rezoning, we know there are major issues for the rezoning. There are major reasons that it has been done just for that area, so that the children can be catered in that particular school. But while opening the doors for them, we are closing the door for the little ones in the rural sector. So we'd like to see if more development on the preschool or the kindergarten would be done in the rural areas such as Wainandoi, and there is another nearby Nangara Island where there is about 10 children. My point here is that if we don't open the opportunity for them, there are 17 parents. Out of that 17 parents, 10 will be able to cater for their children to the nearby school in Nambukavesi, while 7 won't be able to. So they will just keep their children back at home. So we want some opening for the rural development for the rural areas under that education scheme.
Please put in a submission really quickly.
Thank you.
But, sorry? Sure, but just let me just answer. But the thing is, it doesn't necessarily get addressed in this budget. Because these things also have policy considerations for the Ministry of Education. So they do need to go to the Ministry of Education, and then of course they look at that, they do the assessment. Because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when people make a submission, they may be for that whole area. But if you roll out a policy, it's applicable throughout Fiji. So they have to have an assessment as to how it will affect other parts of Fiji too.
Yes, we understand that. And just to add on to that, for the past 8 years, we've been running to the Lands Department and we've been running to the Ministry of Education, but nothing has been done till date. Okay. Yes.
But like I said, make the submission. I mean, I don't know when you say you've been running there, what you've been running to do, whether it's been obviously Lands Department to get the land, but education, I don't know. But I thought the zoning issue was just recent phenomena.
We had a kindergarten which was operating till the COVID hit. And
so why were you going to education before that?
The land issue and the to have a building on its own, because there was never a proper building for that kindergarten.
Okay. Do you understand? He just wants to add on to that then.
Hello, sir. As the chairman of the Serwanamosi District Advisory, we had actually some issues with the school. The lady had volunteered to give the space for the kindergarten at a veranda, and also the submission was made to the Lands Department for a separate space for the kindergarten. And the communities of Wanandoi has been waiting in vain, and that Lands Department is not giving any concrete answers on that.
Can you please do that, because at least we should get a response for you. But please give your contact details and all of that when you made the submissions. You can email it or give it to staff. Over here, please.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having now as one of your consultation area. I've been hearing a lot of thank you, Vinaka, all over this night. But, sir, while listening to your address today, I was trying to find out what strategy are you using for this consultation, for this budget review. What I mean is this, is it people focus or business focus? We come from the landowners people, the resource owners, and I think maybe this government or coming government to involve the landowners, the traditional resource owners. I think this is the best way forward. Involving them in development with their resources that will somehow decrease the cost of, like, if they're selling gravel themselves, there's a company, or people from the farm doing their farming and selling. I'm one of the Namosi Development Board member, and what I was thinking during the COVID, if the government could have given a digger or a tractor to a province for them to utilize themselves in order to increase the production of the goods. So I remember when the Prime Minister, during the formation 2006, if you go to the minister, there will be no appointment. You just walk in, walk out. But for my Matangali and my Abusa, we've been asking for appointment with one of the ministers. Take us 3 months. And we wrote a letter to another minister I won't mention. Now, the 4 months, no reply. That is why I'm asking whether we are people focused or business focused. That way forward, so involving the people, consulting the people. Now, I'm glad that we are here consulted for this budget review. I'll give you an example, sir. Last year, the Minister of Waterway, Dr. Reddy, he announced in the paper or in the radio that they're going to desilt 3 rivers in the Central Division. One of the rivers was from our village, Nambukavesi River. So we were applying for the license for 3 years for the same river. We haven't been consulted. We were so surprised when the company was knocking in front of our door asking for us to sign for the waiver of fishing right. And we were asking for the same thing to to do the gravel extraction from the same river. When we went up to the minister and we requested for a appointment, so it took us 3 months. I was happy when you said that some of the civil servants are not doing their job well. I mean, I don't know whether it's a clerk's role for not informing the minister, but I was so glad that we had a meeting last Friday. But the question is, when we, the Matangali, the resource owner, requested if we can take that contract, no cost to the government, no cost to the government. We're willing to do it ourselves. But they say no. We have to follow the whole process again, applying for the EIA. But the EIA was approved for that desilting of the same river. The screening was done. The question here is this government supporting the initiative of the people of the Vanua or the company? Thank you, sir.
Okay. I'm glad to have met you actually, because I just got a Viber message about you today, about Nambukavesi, about how you stopped the desilting. As you can see from these budget consultations, wherever we've gone, it's about everybody. You can't have a dichotomous approach. You can't divide people, right, to have development, to have economic development. You can't say, is the development for the people or is it for business people? It's for everybody. So, okay, so if I can finish. So you asked me the question about the budget consultations. You said, is the budget consultations for the people or for business? It's for everybody. Yeah. Sure. It's for everybody. Again, my answer is for everybody. The reviving of the economy, you cannot say it can only be for this group or that group. It has to be for everybody. So, for example, if we say, if it's not going to be for people and only business, where's the pointer? So, we won't be actually for example, giving social welfare benefits. Right. We do that for everybody. Whether somebody lives in the village, somebody lives in a squat area between Suva and Nassori, or somebody lives in the Maritime Islands. I'm trying to explain to you. When we give social welfare benefit, it's not to the company. It's for the individual. And that money is given to the individual. At the same time, when we give incentive for businesses, for example, to have a tax-free holiday, the business obviously benefits, but also the ordinary people benefit from it because jobs are being created. So I cannot understand how you're linking that, because it is for everybody. The business is for business, it's for individuals. Now, every development, for example, has to go through an EIA. Right, it has to. Now, when you carry out an EIA, there has to be a particular practice that puts in place. How you extract it. It's not just simply a question of getting an excavator and taking it out. You know that. You're a lot more tuned about that. It's not just a question of getting an excavator and taking it out. It has to be done in a particular manner. The EIA will also tell you about the environment management impact of it. Now, by stopping the desilting, you're actually stopping the mitigation in respect of the flooding of that area by doing the road. Now, 91% of all the land in Fiji is Itoke owned, as you know. Right? 91% of the land. 4.5% of the land in Fiji is state owned or government owned. The other 4.5% is freehold. A lot of conversations have been had. People have said, Itoke people are asset rich, but cash poor. Right? We've said that numerous times. Some of the things that we are doing, obviously, is that we now have Itoke Land Development Fund. If you're Matangali, for example, but let me explain. Let me explain. If your Matangali, for example, tomorrow says the land around Nambuka Vesi, you want to develop that. So if you want to subdivide the land and sell the lots, sell the leases, right? Now you will say, I don't have the money up front because I don't have the money to do the development, the EIA. You may have a scheme plan, some may have done a scheme plan. If you come to government, we develop the land for you. We do the subdivision for you. It's already happening. Warimbitia, Saweni, Yandua, Vunda. 2 projects in Visesis we're about to start. We're doing one in Namata in Tailevu. So what actually has happened, in some cases, the entire landowning unit has come to us and said, this is the land. We have all agreed, 60% consent. We want to subdivide this land. We don't have the money. We'll do it for you. We build the road, we put the footpath, we connect it to water, we connect it to electricity, and then you as a landowner, we value the land too. Right? How much is each lot worth? Then you sell the lease yourself and you get the entire sum of money. I know some land owning areas where people, they have not had the money, so somebody will come and say, look, I'll give you $200,000 for these 10 acres. And you go, great. But then they end up subdividing the land themselves, they get the cream. No, I'm trying to explain to you what are the things we are doing, because you are making it out as if that we are not doing anything even for the landowners. Yeah, just, okay.
The issue that I'm trying to share, sir, the screening was done. The screening. Before the EIA, you do the screening. And the approval for these things has been given. And they issue a contract. The contract was given to the other company. We have a company too, should be given to us. We apply, now we apply, because before we were not consulted. There were no consultation done. Yeah, but I already lost my complaint there, sir. Thank you.
The information I've been given is that the landowners had provided the consent initially, and then the consent was withdrawn. Ministry of Waterways will not go anywhere without the consent of the landowners. So we have to be upfront about this. I was informed by the PS of Waterways in my Viber message this evening that consent was given. That's why they went. They would never go without consent. You know that. No government department, no developer will go anywhere without the consent of the landowners. Of course, at the 11th hour, when they went there, they said the consent has been withdrawn. And then it was demanded of them that you give it to us now. Okay, well, that's what I've been told. I'm telling you what I've been told. If you lodge your complaint, we'll follow through with that. Okay, thank you. Okay, gentlemen over there.
Two questions before I conclude. I must congratulate the government for coming up with this public-private partnership regarding engaging GPs. I understand the scheme is such that anyone can access that service. I understand it's supposed for the underprivileged. So could there be a kind of a guideline as to who can access this service and who can't? And the other thing, if it could be extended to antenatal and postnatal services.
Which
I understand-
services?
Antenatal and postnatal services.
Okay. So, it's essentially for people who would normally go to a public health system. People who can afford to go to doctors, there's already records of them, of the GP. But these are for people who normally can't afford to go to a GP. They'll go to a health center or nursing station or public hospital. And if they go there, then we pay their fees.
Yeah, but that's not what's happening.
Well, it's supposed to happen. If it's not happening, then you let us know who is not doing the right thing.
We see people with pockets going to access this service, which has been highlighted in our website.
Okay. Which website?
Our GP website.
Which website?
Our general practitioner's website.
Okay. Your president is applying to be part of it too.
I understand so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's a moral responsibility. If you know it's happening, then it's your fellow doctors who are doing it. Not us.
What I'm saying is that there should be a guideline as to who can access, who can't. There should be some kind of exemption.
There is the guideline. The guideline is people who normally would go to a nursing station or health center or public hospital, if they go now to a GP. The next question you're going to ask me is, how do you know who it was? But the duty and the responsibility is also up to the private practitioner to know if somebody is getting off their Pajero and coming into your surgery, and you know that they can afford to go to a private doctor in the first place, then why are you allowing their fees to be paid by government? Not everything government can monitor. The people participating in this scheme also have a moral responsibility.
Could there be some kind of card made as to who can access this service?
We have rolled out the guidelines, and there needs to be fine-tuning. Of course, we can do it. But like I said, again, not everything should be on the government. The people who are providing this service also have a moral obligation to do the right thing. Because they are the ones abusing it if they are doing it, like you're saying.
Well, there should be some checks in place. That's what I'm asking.
There is. We get an independent company to do the assessment for us. But if doctors are trying to bypass the system, again, you're not taking responsibility for the doctor's actions. The doctors need to also take responsibility.
Well, it's a bit difficult for a doctor to establish what one ends.
No, but you're saying that you already know that they were doing that.
We know that there's certain people who have the pocket but still go to access this service.
So if your fellow doctor knows that, then why is he putting them under the government scheme?
As I said, it's not always possible to determine who ends what.
May not be always possible, but if you know it is possible, then do it.
Yeah, to minimize that, we should have some kind of
there is a system. We have an
who
independent company that does the verification for us. What's your next issue?
My next question was regarding the sugar industry. How long are we going to pummel money into the industry when it's not giving us return?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. I cannot give you the answer now, but there's certain things we are considering in terms from a policy perspective as to what we can do. You know, there are 43% of the cane farmers in Fiji that cut less than 100 tons a year. A lot of those people, they're still cutting sugar cane because if they give up sugarcane farming, they lose the lease. Because the lease is for sugarcane farming. They may want to do pineapple farming, they may want to do yangona or ginger or whatever else, but they're concerned that if they do that, they may not get the lease to be given to them. So government currently is trying to figure out as to what we can do. There are some people at the moment who are only cutting cane or planting cane because they don't really want to do it, but they're doing it because they have got no other home to go to. Their home is there. So it's a bigger socio-economic issue. You cannot purely look at it from an economic perspective. There's social implications too. So those are some of the things that we're currently working through.
I understand that can be looked into. I mean, it's not that the industry of the sugarcane will result in death of the farmer. They can definitely move to some other agricultural produce.
No, of course, but like I said, you need the land in the first place to plant something. If the lease is not renewed, they'll become a squatter somewhere. That's the point. 50% of Lambasa or Vanua sugarcane production went down because leases were renewed. Where are those people now? They live between Suva and Nasori corridor driving taxis. That's why every time you go to a soccer match in Suva, you see all the Lambasa flags. That's why they're all there.
But Honorable Qayyum, I think the farmers that have come off the land are doing far better living in Sakwada or Newtown.
Anyway, look, you made your point. Let's move along. Thank you.
Okay.
Lady over here, please. Yeah, right, just behind you. We probably should try and finish it off. It's 20 to 11.
Thank you, sir. I just have a small question. Like where we stay in Wainandoi, as everyone knows, there is a river. In that river, there is no crossing. And we stay the other side of the river. And the problem is like when it rains frequently every day, the river is flooded. That Wainandoi river gets flooded very fast. And sometimes we have a problem for our kids. When they come, they have to get out at the main road or a bit this side. And then they have to wait there for the flood to go down and then they have to cross. And when the river is flooded, we just have a small slab. From that small slab, the kids have to cross. And like sometimes we are really worried because sometimes when the rain is heavy and that slab is also flooded. So there is no access from this side to that side. There is about 8 to 9 houses which we have to cross from the river. Even our vehicles, it goes from the river. But when there is a rain, flood, the vehicles we can't pass through.
Okay. Okay, so have you got that written down there?
No.
Sorry?
No, sir.
Can you please have that written down there? I mean, obviously I can't give you an answer now.
Okay.
But if you give the details and whereabouts it is, give your phone contact details,
Yeah.
then we can ask the respective people to look at it.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If we can really have any access or something which government can help us, just to, we know it will be hard to do like a pool or something, but if there's any access for rainy time, the kids, we are really concerned of the kids, school kids. Because some kids are really small, class 1, class 2, and then they have to cross that river when the river is flooded.
Okay. Okay. Please give the details to them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Somebody there at the back, please.
Thank you, sir, for the consultation of the budget. As you have mentioned in the budget that recently we have seen the price of many things are going up. And as far as I remember, certain years back, on the basic food necessity items, we had zero VAT. Can't we actually, the government, do the VAT 0% to the basic food necessity items, or at least lower it at some level, so that these ordinary people, Fijians, can buy like the flour and stuff, and until we are on the road to the recovery. And once we are good to go ahead with good times, we can bring it back onto the same level as we are at now.
Okay. We take note of what you're saying. That's a submission. Okay. I can give you an answer now, of course. But there's one thing you have to understand. When you had the zero VAT, there's only 6 items that were zero VAT. Only 6 items. Flour, cooking oil, tin fish, I think tea, and 2 other items. It's not basic food item, really. Right, because when you make roti, you have to eat curry, you need potatoes, onions, all of those things weren't VAT exempt. And it may not necessarily have given people that particular level of, relief. You also need toothpaste, you need washing powder, you need soap, blah, 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 all those things. So the VAT used to be 12.5%. We reduced it from 12.5% to 9%. Probably one of the very few countries in the world that actually has reduced VAT. And then of course we brought the other item to 9%. So there was an assessment that was done that the overall cost of your basket of groceries in fact had come down. Because you also buy onions, potato, garlic and all those kind of things. So you no longer pay 12.5%, you pay 9%. The other thing you also have to take into account is this, is that the price of things are going up. So even if you remove VAT for certain things, it does not necessarily mean the price will stop increasing. Yeah? Because the price of fuel is going up. Wheat will continue to go up. I'm not saying it won't give any relief necessarily for that. We have to look at overall big picture, what we can do. On the other hand, we still have to give free education, have to provide infrastructure, all those things. So from a budget perspective, it's a balancing act for us. We have to balance things. What are things going to continue? How much revenue will we get? How much money we're going to borrow? So all of those things are actually done in the budget. I take note of what you're saying. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. As we highlighted, they've taken the screen down, but you can actually email to us if you have any particular issues regarding the budget and make any submissions. I'd like to thank you for taking your time out and coming out on a Thursday evening, on a weekday, and I wish you all a very good morning, evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.